Okay, so this is going to be a video on how to extract CID or console ID from a yellow light of death or broken PS3 board. Um, all the CIDs that I personally sell come from dead, broken boards that don't work. They're only going to get thrown away. That's where I get my CIDs from. I know a lot of people, they may get their CIDs from other places. I've heard a lot of talk, things like CID stealing and stuff like that. And as bad as it is, I suppose it does happen. So I've been looking at ways to try and make CID extraction as easy as possible, so that as many people as possible can start selling legit CIDs. So before we start, I'll just say normally I use a Progskeet 1.21 Black Tar Edition and a Teensy 2.0++ to extract all my CIDs. I don't normally use this E3 method, but not long ago a friend of mine was having a few problems, so I decided to look into the E3 flasher. Luckily I came across this method, which is self-powering the E3 from an external power supply, and then getting the reads like that. Unfortunately, I've done a fair bit of testing on it, and unfortunately I can't get it to read directly off the board. So what I've decided is the best way and most consistent way, because it'll give you a read every time, is to take the NOR chip off the motherboard, because the motherboard drains power and blah 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 blah. But anyway, so it is pretty necessary to take the NOR chip off the motherboard, and then you can use the E3 flasher with the solderless clip to extract the CID from the NOR. There's a couple of ways you can get the NOR chip off the motherboard. I use it with this heat gun over here. It's a SMD rework station. I use it for BGA rework and various bits and pieces. It's basically a hot air gun that you can control the temperature on, and you can change the airflow so that it gives more powerful air or less powerful air, blah blah blah. So this is the method I use. I think this has got to be the easiest method. I think I picked up the Scottle rework for £50, something like that. You can get them with the soldering iron attached, which brings me to my next point, that you can use a soldering iron to take the NOR chip off the board, depending on how good your soldering skills are. Mine are good, but I just think it's a lot easier to use a rework station to do it. It's a lot faster as well. As you can see over here, the CPU has been ripped off this board. Now this wasn't me, this is how I got it. I bought a job lot of PS3s and this is how it was. All the traces have been ripped up. I think someone must have just tried to tear the CPU off the board. So yeah, it's absolutely KO'd. This PS3 there's no chance of saving it. So I'm going to show you now how I extract how I take the NOR off the board, and then a bit later in the video I'll show you how to actually get the CID from the NOR chip. So in the description I'll put a list of everything that you're going to need. There's going to be a how-to document in there, which is going to have pictures, a written guide. It'll have a list of everything you need before you start. So yeah, let's crack on. Right, so what you want to do is, ideally, this, I use it in a needle because it's just easier to put it out. This is Kingbo Flux. This basically is flux paste for soldering and SMD and BGA work, that it helps to spread the heat around. So what you want to do is you want to put just a nice little thin layer along the legs of the NOR chip. Obviously, if you're familiar with the NOR chip, which you should be if you're watching this video, you'll know they've got, I think it's about 28 legs either side. I'm not sure the exact amount, but yeah. So basically, you just want to get some flux along that side, some flux along this side. This is really important just because it helps to spread the heat, and the faster the chip comes off, the less like pressure and stress it's under. Obviously, this holds all the information for the PS3, so if you damage this chip, it's a no-go from then on. So just either side, just cover the legs with flux. Again, I recommend Kingbo flux. This is RMA 218, but RMA 238 works as well. And then the heat gun I set to 500 degrees, and I normally have it on around about 3. And then you're going to want a pair of tweezers. These are anti-static tweezers. I only use anti-static tweezers when I do board work. You know, long story. It's just a lot better. It's just a lot safer. Right, so get your heat gun. Let that heat up to 500. It'll catch up eventually. It just needs to warm up. So, and you don't want to be too rough with it as well. I mean, I don't know what your soldering skills or board handling skills are like, but you know, gently is always the best way. So, just literally just drop the heat on the one side, on the legs on the one side, and if you get your tweezers and just gently start to push the edge of the tweezers underneath the NOR chip, and then the flux paste will start to bubble, and then what will happen is, as the solder starts to melt, the tweezers will go underneath it and it will start to pop the legs up. But again, you don't want to move too fast, just let it come when it comes. And then there we go, so that's the one side up, and then you just want to put your tweezers on the other side, and then just put the heat on the legs on the other side. Now these should come a bit quicker because there's a little bit more pressure from the chip being up. So just make sure you keep the heat on the legs. There we go, and then the legs release. So the heat gun goes back down, that will cool down by itself. So that board's dead now, that's gone. Right, so drop the chip on there. Now careful with the chip because it's really hot. So normally what I do is I'll use, in fact I'll show you what this is. This is MEK. It's like a rubbing alcohol, stuff like that. Just dab it on the cotton bud, and then just wipe off the excess flux paste, because the flux paste gets quite sticky when it melts. It gets really sticky. So you have to use the MEK or any rubbing alcohol just to get it off. Otherwise you're handling a sticky chip, which is never a good idea. So I'll just flip it over. Get some more MEK on there. I'll just use the tweezers to hold it down, just force a habit, just so I don't damage it or get sticky fingers. Right, there we go. Right, and then what you want to do, you want to check the legs of the NOR chip to make sure that they're all intact. Yeah, these look pretty good. Yeah, everything's in line. Right, there we go. Right, so we've got one NOR chip. So now I'm going to show you how to actually use the E3 to extract the CID from it. Yeah, hope you enjoyed that part. We'll move on to the next part now. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to wire up the E3 to the external power supply unit. I do recommend, if you're going to have a go at this, you want to download the how-to guide in the description. And what I'll do is I'll put some photos and a written tutorial about how to do it step by step. It'll probably be a bit easier. It shouldn't be too hard to follow. Right, so I've got the this is the ground and the 3.3 volt. That's connected to the power supply unit, and there's a wire that goes from the green part, the green point, to the black point in the power supply unit, and that will act as like a power switch. So when you turn the PSU on, it will just start up as if it's plugged into a PC. So once you've got those wired up, you just want to plug the
3.3 volt in, and the ground. I mean, you can plug it straight into the PSU, but I like to use these adapters. It just makes things a hell of a lot easier. Right. Okay. And in I think in the third part I'll go through a little bit about why you can't read the NOR chips directly off the board. Right, so that's the E3 flasher. Right, I'm just going to turn on my external power supply unit. Right, there we go. Okay, right, so obviously the 3.3 volts from the external power supply unit are powering the E3 flasher, which means the E3 flasher will read the NOR self-powered. Right, so what you want to do is got your NOR chip off the PlayStation. You want to put it with the writing reading downwards. Obviously, have a little play with it. Just sit the NOR clip into the NOR chip into the clip. There you go. And then what I like to do is, if you just put it flat on the table, and then I like to just hold it with my fingers. I mean, you can clamp it or you can do whatever it is. Excuse me. If you're gonna, if you do E3 downgrade, you'll know you'll have like your own routine anyway. So, anyway, yeah. So, once you got it into place, it's just a matter of reading it. So, sometimes you will get errors, but you just got to make sure that your NOR chip's sitting properly inside the clip, rather than the clip sitting on top of the chip. There you go, so there's an error. So literally just lift it up, make sure all the legs are in contact, make sure it's sitting properly. In fact, what I'll do is I'll use a clamp. This is the clamp I'll use for downgrading slims. Obviously fats you can't really use a clamp. Yeah, for fats I use a lump hammer. Right, obviously not too much pressure. Right, let's go again. Start. I mean, as you can see, like what I've used for the wires is 2 speaker wires in one, because I wasn't sure whether one wire would carry the voltage. I was going to tidy it up, but I didn't really think there was any point. I always label up one wire with some black tape just to know that that's the ground, or if you want to mark your 3.3 volt, just so that you always know which wire's for which. Last thing you want to do is plug your ground wire into your 3.3 volt. Right, so there it is, it's starting to read. Yeah, so in fact, you know what, I'll just cover why you can't read it off the board now. So basically, the reason you have to take the chip off the motherboard is because when you plug the E3 flasher onto the motherboard, when it's powered like this, the motherboard drains a certain amount of wattage, so it might be like 0.01 or 0.1 or however much it is. But it's not just the NOR chip using the power. The motherboard will also drain the power from the E3 flasher, which then means that the E3 flasher isn't giving the NOR chip the full 3.3 volts that it needs. And it needs to be 2.8 amps, I believe, that the NOR chip needs to get. So obviously when you turn the PS3 on, the NOR chip gets the exact right amount of voltage off the PS3. So the E3 flasher then just uses that, but obviously if you've got a yellow light, a deaf board, or the board doesn't turn on, this is pretty much the only way to do it. Right, so there you can see it's finished reading. So what I'll do is I'll just turn the camera around, sort it up, and I'll show you how to actually extract the dump from the CID from the read. Okay, so before I show you how to get the CID from the dump, I just need to say, please don't leave any comments saying you showed your CID and MAC address, because obviously I know that. But this bin file that I'm using is from a customer who I sold a CID to, and then about a month later he did a chargeback on PayPal to get his money back. When I messaged him, he just blocked me on Facebook. So I released this CID as public, so this CID will most likely be banned by now. In fact, it definitely is banned. It was banned within 8 minutes of releasing it. So FYI for the future, if you keep hold of the bins and keep track of what you sold to who, if anybody does a chargeback and tries to scam you, then you can always release the CID publicly and get the CID banned. So you won't have the money, but at least they won't have a working CID. Right, so anyway, so what I've done is on the left hand side I've opened up a notepad folder and I've added IDPS, PSID and Mac. As most people know, not everybody, basically the CID is made up of an IDPS and a PSID, and I always recommend to my customers to change the MAC address as well, because obviously if they're 3 bits of identification for a PlayStation, ideally you want all 3 bits to be matching, otherwise you'll be 2 PlayStations in one. To get onto PSN you only have to change the IDPS, but I personally recommend changing all 3, but it's up to you, whatever you want to do. Right, okay, so I'll show you now how to get the CID from the .bin dump from the E3 flasher. So if you've got a card reader, like either a USB or a SD card reader, put the SD card into that, plug it into your PC. So I'm using a USB SD card reader. Right, so what you're going to do, if you just click once on the bin file just to highlight it, this program Dumpstatistic, I'll leave a link for this in the description so you can download it to use this. This is really useful. If you do E3 flasher downgrades, I recommend using Dumpstatistic to check your dumps. It's a really good program. It also patches dumps as well, but that's for another time. Anyway, right, so if you open up Dumpstatistic, this Dumpstatistic here, so this square box here, this is where you want to drag and drop your .bin file. So if you just drag your .bin file into this square box here where it says input, let go, take a few seconds, it will give you an error log. So for example here it says no brick risk, continue. So basically you've got a good dump. There's a few values off, but yeah, as a whole it's okay. Right, anyway, so first things first, let's take the MAC address. So the MAC is pretty self-explanatory. So over here on the right hand side where it says info for the BKPPS3.bin, there'll be the MAC address. So if you literally just highlight it, right click, copy, go over to your text document, left click, right click, paste, right, there's the MAC. Then if you take the IDPS underneath the MAC, highlight that, right click, copy, left click on the text document, paste that over there. I'll just stretch that out a little bit. There we go. Right, now the PSID is a little bit more tricky. The ECID here, if you highlight the ECID, right click, copy that, and then paste that to PSID. But that's not the actual PSID, so you need to take this eight digit number just above it that says just CID. Highlight that, right click that, copy, and then highlight the last 8 digits from PSID, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then right click and paste. So the PSID is the ECID, and then you replace the last 8 digits of the ECID with the CID from here. You might want to watch it back again just to get that. And then there you've got your IDPS, PSID and MAC address. So if you save as, desktop, let's just save it as CID. There you go. Right, and then just close off Dumpstatistic, close up your folder, delete your .bin file or save it, but I've already got this one saved, so it's not a problem. I'm going to delete that. Right, what I would recommend is if you're gonna sell CIDs, make sure that you keep
a good record, because the last thing you want to do is double sell people CIDs. So number them up 1 to however many, and put people's names on them who have bought them and stuff like that, and blah blah blah. But one thing I will stress is always be really organised with CIDs, because the last thing you want to do is double sell a CID. Right, so I hope that you enjoyed the video, and hopefully you are going to give this a go. So good luck, and I'll see you in the next video.